Are we allowed to video sideways? Is that a thing? Wait, hold on. Let me check. As I really want a video sideways. I don't want a video straight up and down. I want to talk about when you're feeling stuck, which I have been there, done that. No, you're not allowed to be sideways. Okay, hold on, people. Let's get up right here. Let's see. Sorry, that is my hand. Welcome to my hand. Okay, here we are. Now we are upright. Let me make sure it came on the computer. Okay, good. So I want to talk about, maybe I'll lower it a little. Here we go. What to do when you're stuck. Like, it doesn't matter where you start. So I tell this to my yoga students all the time, but I had to be reminded by my coach today that, you know, this is what happens in yoga. I'll just give you an example. People come to class, they're totally aware when they're in the pose, moving between poses, it's like they're thinking about ordering coffee. Then they go into another pose and they're like, yeah, I'm really aware. And then after class, they pack up their stuff, pile the blankets up like a herd of wild wolves, and then leave. And you're like, what? Like, your practice doesn't end on the mat. It doesn't begin on the mat and it doesn't end on the mat. Like, the way you fold the blankets is the way you do everything. The way you fold the blankets is the way you practice your pose. The way you choose to treat your, yoga blocks and how well you stack them, and if they match evenly, shows the level of awareness that you're bringing to yourself. So it doesn't matter in your life, to take this out of the yoga studio and into life, like, it doesn't matter if you're starting with the way that you dress today, or the food that you put in your body this morning or at lunch. Like, it doesn't matter if you started there or you started with buying yourself weekly massages or like hiring the best help and the best coaches. Like, it doesn't matter where you start, because all of them reflect the same energy, right? So if there's one part of your life that's really luxurious and that you're treating yourself really well, that's great, because that's going to build into other parts of your life. But if there's this like predominance of, well, I'm really sloppy in everything, but I take a lot of attention over here, like, things are off, right? Or we're not able to expand in the ways that we want to expand, because we're like continuing to repeat the pattern of, hi, Shannon. We're continuing to repeat the pattern that something, like, we're sloppy, or we're not taking care, or we're not paying enough attention. So this is why when people talk about, like, for people like me who stay at home, who stay at home to work, we say things like, you got to get dressed in the morning, you got to shower in the morning, you have to do all that, because the attention that you're giving yourself, that reflects in the attention that you give everything. Like, you can't just expect your business to expand when you are super sloppy about yourself, or you're like, oh, well, I'll dress up and feel fabulous someday when I'm wealthy, right? It doesn't work like that. So let me know what you're stuck on. If somebody has an example, I would love to know, and we can talk through this. But I just wanted to say, like, you don't have to focus just on that area that you're stuck and be so focused on that you can't get unstuck, and you're frustrated and you're like, why isn't it working, and why can't I shift anything? You can focus on anything. So I've got one of my clients who just launched like a really fun, cool challenge, and it's awesome. Like, is it exactly in the line of her business? Who knows? Because her business may change, but not right now, not as far as we can see. It's attached to it, it's connected to it, it's somewhere in line with it, but it's the fun part, it's the easy part. So maybe we can't shift this thing over here, but we can sure have a lot of fun over here and be how we want to be. Or I have this, like, I just recently recommitted to eating in a certain way, particularly in the first few hours of the day and also at night, because I realize that the way that I eat reflects how I feel about myself. And if I'm eating horrible things, then I'm not feeling very good. And if I'm not treating myself well, then I can't really show up for other people. So, it really began to show me, oh, if I'm having this problem over here with my business, or feeling like a fraud, or feeling like I'm out of integrity, or wondering, like, can I really lead people? All the fears that go along with everything we do in life that's big and scary. That I needed to treat myself in exactly the ways that I would expect to have once I was already there, right? So that's part of this, like, fake it till you make it. You can treat yourself in the ways that you want to have later. You can have the same experiences, but just have them now. So if you have an example of somewhere that you're stuck, feel free to share it and we can talk about how you might unstick it in another way. Oh, somebody's sending me a comment. So what, that fairly famous quote, I don't know who actually said it because so many people have been attributed to it, but it's basically what you do in one area is what you do with everything. So what you do with your diet is what you do with everything. What you do with your hair and your showering and your body routine is what you do with everything. What you do with your exercise is how you do everything. So if you do everything with consciousness, then you'll do everything, or do one thing with consciousness, then eventually you'll do everything with consciousness. And if you do everything sloppily, or the main predominant things of your life sloppily, or putting yourself to the side, then that's not, we're going to translate that sloppiness into the other parts of your world. This doesn't mean, just not to stress you out, this doesn't mean that you have to be like hyper alert and vigilant in all areas of your life. It's not a death sentence, it's not a you have to do this or you're going to be imperfect, or you have to do this and you'll never succeed, or you have to do this or you're going to fail as a human being. Like, it's not like that. What it is an invitation. It's an invitation to look at where you're selling yourself short and where you may be out of integrity, because the feeling based is where we create our lives from. We don't create it necessarily from the actions that we do every day. We do it from the way that we feel about what we do every day. So when you really take the time to feel how you want to feel, then we're in more alignment. And so we're in integrity. Let me see. Shannon said, I work from home and I get up and get dressed and get up as if I was working out of the home. Yeah, perfect. The weather is really affecting me. And I don't want the lack of sun to bring me down. Oh, are you in the southern hemisphere? In winter? Although it's cloudy here today. Well, not at the moment. Yeah, so maybe then, you're really aware. So maybe we need to think about, okay, well, if we think that weather can affect our mood, where else are we allowing other things to influence and affect us? Like that's reflecting of a pattern of maybe for you it shows up as like I'm powerless, or I'm not in control here, or I'm just like tossed around by the winds of life. So just that phrase is really telling, because we're like, oh shoot, if weather can bring me down and it's gonna like trigger my vitamin D to drop, and then I'm not going to be healthy and I'm going to get too much sleep or not enough sleep, we can go in these cycles where we feel really powerless against life. So maybe that's reflecting somewhere else in your business or somewhere else in your life. Like, well, I don't have control here. And maybe that's with diet, maybe it's with health, maybe it's with relationships, maybe it's with clients. So looking at how that might be showing up in other areas. I know for me a huge one is I actually didn't used to get dressed. I used to think, I actually experienced a lot of physical pain. That people have called any number of things, from fibromyalgia to you're crazy. And so when I first started working from home, I thought, well, I'm not going to put on pants, because like real pants other than yoga pants. I am wearing pants, just to warn you, just to clarify. But I thought, well, I'm going to wear stretchy, comfortable pants because otherwise my body hurts. And so what a gift that I work from home, so now I'm allowed to wear stretchy pants. But then I realized over a couple of years that I was feeling not confident in myself. Yeah, I'm wearing pants. I was feeling not confident in myself. And then I looked at my wardrobe and I realized, oh, I'm not taking the time and care that I would want to take. And so here in my vision of myself as this successful, amazing woman, I was wearing all these designer clothes and feeling really awesome. And yet I was showing up every day, like in nice yoga clothes. They were Lululemon. Like, it's not cheap ass yoga clothes, but still it wasn't how I wanted to feel. I wouldn't have wanted to show up on stage dressed like that, put it that way. And that's not to say that you have to pressure yourself to get dressed every day and put on full makeup and any of that, but to think about, am I really doing myself the favor that I want by feeling as good as I could feel? Right? Like today I am wearing yoga pants, right? And I'm wearing like a gray shirt. But that's okay for me today. Today is a day to like get stuff done. I'm getting messy, I'm getting dirty, I'm moving stuff around. That's just how it is. And it was really chilly this morning, so that's okay. But that doesn't mean that every day I won't give thought to what I'm wearing and how I feel. Same with your diet. Like if you're starting every day with Fruity Pebbles, you're probably not going to feel that great. And like this is something that I work on a lot. Like, do I need coffee? No, I don't need coffee. But do I want coffee? Why do I want coffee? Do I want it because it's going to give me some lift? Do I want it because it makes me super confident and happy? Do I want it, is it worth the exhaustion that comes with coffee later, or the cravings for sugar and alcohol, like all of that stuff? Future me is like, why are you even having that discussion? That's irrelevant to our life. We don't allow anything in our life, this is future me talking, anything in my life that puts me on a an emotional roller coaster and creates cravings for other things in my life that I don't want, or makes me feel emotional, or makes me feel out of control, or makes me feel like I'm not showing up as my best self. Like, future me is like, this is not even a discussion. So that means that me now knows that it's not in my highest and best, right? I know on a deep level that it's not the best thing for me. Does that mean I'm never going to have coffee again? No, it doesn't. But it means that if I'm up for it, I'm going to make choices that feel in integrity with my highest vibe, sense of self, something like that. So really check in, like, what's an area where you could be more in integrity? Maybe it's showing up more authentically with friends. Maybe it's calling your mom once a week. Maybe it's scheduling in 30 minutes a day to exercise. That's a big one. I used to exercise a ton and then I let it slip, but I stand for health and wellness. That's a big part of who I am, is I teach health and wellness. And to then not be exercising was a really big slap in the face. And my boyfriend called me out on it and said, we're going running, we're going to exercise, we're going to go hike. And I went, wow, thank you. Thank you for helping me be in integrity, because the more I do it, the better I feel. And then I can show up really proud of myself. So let's see, being flexible, making informed choices in that moment. Yeah, I love that. So exactly, like in that moment, somebody hands you a donut and you're like, no. Which, again, just an example, it doesn't have to be food for you. Food for me is an easy one to see how I'm feeling about myself and if I am in integrity or not. Clothing is another easy one. How often I wash my hair, how often I exercise, how much I'm reaching out to friends, because I tend to hide, right? We hide if we're not in integrity. We're like, oh, I have nothing good to say about myself. I don't want anybody to know the real me. So one of the reasons actually I've really struggled with this Facebook group, to be totally honest, is that not every day is like a rainbow and sunshine day. And not every day is a day where I feel 100% in integrity and like I have, a message to share. Let me change that slightly, that I always have a message to share, but sometimes it's easier for me to share the pain side of it. Like, hey guys, when you're living your purpose, you're also having to experience the shadow. You can't live the light without the shadow. Our world functions through these dualities. And so a lot of times I'm working through the shadow side of duality, and I want to show up and share that, but I haven't necessarily come to the lesson that flips you to the light side yet. So sometimes I hide because I'm like, oh, I can't show them this shadow side without having the clear path forward. But I can share these little things, right? Like, I've changed my diet and I feel much better. I decided that one of the things that I really truly stand for is creating the rituals in your life, whether they're a daily yoga practice or a daily mindset practice or a daily anything, like creating these consistent rituals in your life that allow you to access who you really are, that allow you to access your soul's voice and the soul's way of feeling in the world, so that you can make decisions on a daily basis from a place that's truly aligned. If we only practice once a month getting into alignment, then it's very hard to stay there. It's very hard to live there. It's very hard to make decisions from that place or speak from that place. But if we have daily practices that bring us into alignment, then we not only build our capacity to be in alignment, but we can make choices that continue to bring us into alignment. So one of the things that's really powerful for me is a daily practice. And in yoga, we have a concept called sadhana, and sadhana is a daily practice, but it's the same practice every day for a set period of time. And this is something I've resisted, right? Because consistency is hard, and I have some beliefs about consistency. But I realized a few weeks ago, like, too bad. I don't care what your beliefs are. Like, I'm in integrity or I'm not. And I kid you not, I've been doing my morning practice every single day since then, and it feels amazing. And I have some tips on that I can share, like how to make it workable and how to make it something that you can do without building yourself up for failure. that I can share in a different one video. But yeah, like what we're really talking about is choose one thing, not necessarily the thing you're stuck on. Like if you're stuck on money, don't look at money. If you're stuck on your body and your weight, don't look at your body and your weight. If you're stuck on your relationship with your partner, don't look at that. Look somewhere else for clues about how you could be showing up more in line with how and who you want to be, and more how you want to feel. So Shannon gave this awesome example of like, and you know, we don't know Shannon's full story, or Shannon, I don't know you that well, but I love that you gave us a little example to work with, tiny little example that the weather's affecting me. So we could say, oh my gosh, maybe for Shannon, this is a huge moment where we're like, oh, why am I assuming that outside forces get to choose how I feel? Like, where else am I doing that? So, you know, that's really the point. Like, one thing can show us how we are viewing everything. And so it doesn't matter where you start, and it doesn't matter where you look. Notice how you're interacting with that aspect of your life. Are you mindlessly eating every night after work? Are you not really cleaning your house as much as you want it to be clean? And like, oh, I don't have the time for that. Well, not having the time for anything shows that you're rushed, shows that you're stressed, shows that you're allowing timelines to control you instead of you control your time. Maybe you're like, I can't afford anything and there's constant bills. Like maybe that's showing that you feel like, what's the word? I just lost it. Overwhelmed. So where else are you allowing that feeling of overwhelm and allowing that feeling of like you can't get out for air and it's never going to change? And again, that's the powerless feeling, like you don't have any control here. All these things are happening to you and you can't fight back. So we just look to our lives for clues and then pick one area where we can make a change. Like for me, I picked a bunch of things because I go all in when I go in. I picked my daily routine. I picked getting dressed in the morning. I picked showering in the morning, you know, because not every day. Sometimes I shower at night and all that. Anyway, long story about my hygiene. But daily, you know, getting dressed, taking the time to really care for myself in the morning, taking the time for my daily practice, taking the time for my mindset practice, choosing what I eat really carefully, and then with the encouragement of my boyfriend, starting to exercise more regularly, which feels amazing. And then because I'm continually creating a space that feels how I want to feel, it's much easier for me to then tackle the next layer of beliefs and the next layer of perhaps what we might call blocks in between me and what I want. And some of the deeper work, like with my coach, we've been going super, super deep because now I have the systems in place to let myself get to that next level. So I'm not dealing, it might be in the same category of self-development or in the same category of self-love and self-worth or the same category of money and lack, but I'm going on a totally different level now, like really like down to the core and root of issues. And that's because I have all of these things in my life that continually build me up and are continually keeping me in a space that is beginning to build the container of how and who I want to be. Now, I would have said the same thing 4 years ago, right? Like, we're always doing this. We're always refining because we're always growing. And a lot of people talk about, I'm just going to add a little snippet here because I think this is a really important concept. A lot of people talk about, well, I advance and then I sabotage, and I advance and then I sabotage. And so we're kind of, in some ways, we can build up a fear of advancing because we know we're going to sabotage, so why bother? But in the way that I view purpose and the way I view our souls expanding in the world is we're not actually snapping back. So if your purpose is this spectrum of light to dark, and you're always on that spectrum because, in fact, it's a circle. It's not linear, right? So the highest point of light has implied in it the lowest point of shadow, and we're always going around this spectrum. Then as we move to the higher point of light, like, okay, and by that I mean, wow, I just really felt my purpose on a deeper level. I felt more joy than I've ever allowed myself to feel. I felt more expansive than I've ever allowed myself to feel. I felt more on purpose, more like I'm sharing, more successful, more myself than ever. Then any whiplash coming back from that is not, oh, and now I'm back where I started. It's, okay, welcome. And here's the next step to growth. So this whole like upper limit sabotage, I'm not sure I buy it. I think it's we expand and then we get the next invitation and the next invitation and the next invitation. So it's a continual process of expansion. right? There is these moments, like the natural rhythm of the body is expand and expand and condense, rest, expand, condense, rest. So I understand the concept behind upper limit sabotage, but also implied in life is continual expansion. So it's expand, condense, rest, expand, condense, rest, expand, condense, rest, right? It's this ever widening expansion of energy, of possibility, of like the universe is ever expanding. So think of it like an invitation. So say that you decide after watching this video, like, you know what, you're right. So every day for the next week, we've got Tuesday through Friday left. I'm going to get up and I'm going to put on something that makes me feel really great. Good. And then on Thursday, you wake up and you're like, screw all this, I'm wearing, pajamas all day, blah. Like, that's not sabotage. That's the invitation to go deeper about why. And why, and all of the things that are stopping you from allowing yourself to do that, and all of the things that are coming up about how you don't want to, and why you shouldn't have to, and I don't get this, and this is silly, and I don't have to be perfect, and I don't have to do that. All of that is pointing you at the areas of your mind, of your beliefs, of your own ability to feel good, so that you can evolve even further, so that you can live your purpose more deeply, more clearly, with more openness. So don't worry if you fall off the boat, right? Like, that's okay. We're going to get back on, and this time it turns out the boat's going to be bigger. It's like every time we fall off the boat, we get back on, the boat's bigger. It's awesome. So, like, have heart in that. That not only does it not matter where you start, because everything, what you do in one area is reflected in what you do in every area. Gosh, I wish I could remember the exact quote. But you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter where you start. It also doesn't matter if you fail, because failure is just the invitation to go deeper. And going deeper is the point, because going deeper is how you become an expert in your purpose and in being you. Which is why, like, my programs are called Becoming You. They're not about, like, making millions. And my programs aren't about, like, having a successful business. My programs are about becoming you, because that is the continual and never-ending journey. And there's no end point. You know, we could say, well, I was me when I was 16, and I was me, well, I'm always me. Yeah, no duh. We're always us. But we can find new ways to accept and allow and embrace and enjoy the process of being us, right? So it's, who can I become? Who can I allow myself to become? And expand into that. All right, does anybody have any questions or thoughts? Thank you guys for those of you who are here with me. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to type in the comments. Hopefully Facebook will let me know. But two pieces here, the main piece being that it doesn't matter where you start. So just pick something. Notice where you're out of integrity in some way. Don't look at the area that's the most frustrating to you, because that's usually the one that's hardest for us to see. Look somewhere else and make a tiny shift. Maybe you need to have like an extra piece of fruit every day in the afternoon instead of chocolate. Thank you, Shannon, for being here. You know, have a piece of fruit instead of chocolate. Maybe it's as simple as putting on lipstick. Maybe it's as simple as making your bed in the morning. That can be a huge one to show that you've taken the time to end one chapter and begin another, and so that you have a beautiful homecoming when you come home in the evening or go to bed in the evening. Like tiny little things. Or even if you're a yoga student and you go to the yoga studio, when you put your props away, that is a reflection of the practice. That's a reflection of your consciousness and awareness. Drives me crazy when my students put props away all wrong, or not sloppily. So start somewhere really, really small. And then when you feel the resistance, this is the second part, then when you feel the resistance, then when you fall off the wagon, then when you think, well, am I just going to have to do this forever? Whew, let it go. Let it go, because that's not a snapback. That's not sabotage. That's not you failing. It's not, oh, I'm never going to get it, or, oh, look at me, I'm not like the other people who it's just easy for. No, that's where you get to look next. Oh, why? Why don't I feel like it today? Why is this hard for me? What beliefs are coming up? What is my emotion telling me? Maybe it's telling me, like, this is dumb to dress up every day, because who am I kidding that I'm successful? Maybe it's, I don't deserve all this organic food or really nice food that feels healthy, because feeling healthy is unsafe, because if I feel really good about myself, then I'm just going to be disappointed that my life doesn't reflect how good I feel about myself. You know, these things, these beliefs exist. I know, because I've had them all. My coach works with me on them all the time. So, like, that's our invitation. When we hit the stumbling block and we're not perfect, that's where we get to grow into the next level of our purpose. Not by being perfect and checking it off the list every day. You know? Like, quitting smoking, like, I don't smoke. I smoked for years, absolutely smoked for years and years and years. Quit. Met my boyfriend. He smoked at the time. And I was like, dude, lie to me. Tell me you do not smoke. Because I'm an addict. I'm a true addict. Which I need to work on that phrasing. Because I'm not actually an addict anymore. I don't need to believe that. But I was. And that's what I said to him at the time. I was like, lie to me. Because I'm an addict. He didn't. He was like, no, I smoke. Because, of course, he didn't know me. And he didn't know that I was serious about lying to me. So then I started smoking again. And then it was time to quit. And it's like, okay, well, I can quit smoking and I can spend a lot of time thinking about, like, well, that's easier. You know, I can tell other people, like, oh, I quit smoking. They're like, oh, easy for you to say. Or, like, clearly you weren't really addicted or blah, 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 blah. Like, no. Every time I wanted a cigarette was an opportunity for me to learn why. Why do I want a cigarette right now? Why do, like, today, actually, I kid you not, right before this video, I was wandering around the house looking for sugar. There's no sugar in this house for the reason that I can't have sugar in the house. But I'm wandering around the house looking for sugar, and I was like, why do I want sugar right now? And I realized, like, oh, I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling frustrated that the day's already half gone, and I was trying to do the Facebook Live video from my desktop, but my live feature on the desktop disappeared even though I had it last week, and so I was feeling out of control. I was feeling like time is rushing by, Facebook doesn't love me, like all of these things are happening, like I'm too grumpy for the world, blah, 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 blah. And so I wanted sugar to soothe the problem. Solve and soothe. But that doesn't mean I had to go binge eat sugar or run to the store and get candy. It means I had the opportunity to go, oh, you poor thing. Like, of course you're feeling that way. What would make it better? And that is expanding into caring for myself. That is expanding to living my own purpose and being in integrity with myself. Because now I have the opportunity to care, to understand, to see why I would make a choice, and then to really heal that piece and go, okay, what's really going on? Great. Well, why don't we, build in some time later to figure out Facebook? Why don't we come up with, like, I had to charge my phone, and so I was like, oh, I have to wait for an hour just to do this live video. Like, okay, so why don't we come up with a better plan to make sure that your phone has a charge all the time? That kind of thing. Why don't we find a place to record video that has an outlet nearby so you can charge at the same time? Like, there are solutions if we open to understanding why we might sabotage ourselves, why we might feel threatened or unsafe, or like, I just don't want to, or like our inner emotional self is having a temper tantrum. So it's not failure. It's like the opposite of failure. It's the best thing that could happen because it's the only opportunity to grow. We can't learn about ourselves and learn about our purpose and expand if we're already perfect. There's no expansion in perfect. In yoga, they have this concept that the world was created from divine play. And the idea behind that is that in Hinduism, God is perfect. So why would God need to create anything else if God in and of itself is wholeness and perfection? And the answer was just for the fun of it. And so the concept of the world is just play. Like, can I do this because why not? And can I try this because wouldn't that be fun? And so the perfection, the wholeness is inherent. It's who you are. It's everything about what already is. And anything else is just to see it a little differently, to try it out and see if it feels any better. So, and interestingly, that concept really struck me. And so I've said for a long time, I want to feel lighthearted. It's one of my main gifts to myself that I wish that I am working on giving myself is lightheartedness. And interestingly, my yoga teacher gave me a name without any initiation on my part. He thought that I had asked for a name, though I hadn't, and gave me the name Leela Shakti, which means the power of divine play. And Leela meaning this type of play that the world was created in. Like, why the hell not? We're already perfect, so let's see what else could be fun. And I really want to, cement in that concept here that when we're living out our purpose, there is always the light and shadow side, because life is experienced through dualities. We are oneness. Everything is oneness, but it's very hard to experience oneness because oneness and perfection being the same thing. It's very hard to experience that without the other. So it's hard to experience epic happiness and lifelong success if we haven't known, desperate sadness and struggle. It's very hard to feel super connected if we don't know what loneliness feels like. Just like we can't know what color and light looks like without the concept of darkness. I was listening to Alan Watts talk about this yesterday in his book, Out of Your Mind. And I was listening to the audiobook lecture, and he talks about that he met a woman who was blind from birth, and the concept of darkness meant nothing to her because she doesn't know light. And I went, holy moly, of course! Everything is duality in the way that we experience it, even though it's one. So when you hit this moment of like, struggle, I want sugar, I don't want to make my bed, screw that, I'm too tired today, no, I'm not getting dressed today. This is not failure. This is the other side of the same issue, inviting you to go a step deeper. Why? Why? Is it because you don't deserve it? Is it because you don't want to have to live like this? Is it because you're just fed up with having to try to be perfect? You don't, you want a reward. You want it to be easy. You want somebody else to give it to you. You feel like it doesn't matter what you do. You feel like you have no control over anything. You just want it to all go away. Like, why? That's important, because the why we can respond to. The why we can coach on, the why we can work through, the why we can negotiate with. But the gut reaction, oh, I'm failed, I'll just eat a, whole cake and never shower for the rest of my life. Like, not much we can do with that. Which is why most coaches, particularly like people like me, we can only work with people who are really willing and inspired to stretch themselves. Because the whole point is to stretch yourself. The whole point is, why the hell not? Let's see. There are plenty of people I meet in my life, in fact, most of them in my family, who are like, why do you do this kind of work? Like, life is fine. Why do you have to navel gaze and do even more? Like, my answer to that is, why the hell not? I'm one of those people who wants to keep expanding. I love the people in my life who have no desire to keep expanding because they make it funny. They remind me that it's not all serious, because my gut reaction is like, oh my gosh, expand until you have bajillions of dollars and you've climbed every mountain in the Himalayas and you've seen every child and you've touched every single life and, you've made this massive difference in the world and millions of people know who you, like, that's my natural reaction, right? It's serious. This is serious. I have to live my calling to the best extent, and if I don't do it, I'm an epic failure in life. And then there's my parents who are like, life's pretty good. I don't know what the big deal is. Can't you just, chill and like just let things be good, right? Like, that's the opposite. And it's good. It's good to have the opposite. So it's good to know that when you're, expanding, there's going to be a little bit of like, okay, what's next? And the what's next isn't usually like a really lovely experience. It's usually a moment of like, okay, let me expand more. Hope that helps. That was a lot. We got on a real rant there. I love it. I love it. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. Start a new post. Let's talk about it. I would love to hear, and nobody ever takes me up on this, but I would love to hear somewhere where you're stuck and how this concept, like what area of your life you can work on or you want to start with just to see how it goes. And your experience with this whole, is it sabotage or is it growth? I would love to hear your take on that, because that's why we're here. We're here to talk. We're here to discuss. We're here to expand each other with our concepts in our mind and the way that we interpret the world and move through it. And I would absolutely love to learn from you. I believe that all of us hold collective wisdom. Yay. Perfect. Oh, wait, and there's one more thing I want to try out. These really nifty, I want to try out these ooh! My boyfriend did this the other day, and I was like, how do you have all these little things? Oh. Okay, that's it. I guess we did get really crazy. I don't know how to get back, so I'm just going to end. Sorry.